That's exactly what I'm saying. Checkmate, Sergey. Ta-ta. It's true. The Hex has wide distribution options to the U.S.
Hot stuff.
If you have ever visited Grandma and Grandpa Thompson at all over the years, or maybe you know them as Irvin and Loni, you would know that one of the highlights of being in their home is enjoying one of Grandma's well-supplied dinners. You would also know that another highlight is hearing Grandma and Grandpa tell stories about their life, especially if you can get them to tell them together. At ages 91 and 92, there aren't as many feasts as there used to be, but it's still great to visit Grandma and Grandpa, and the stories they have to tell never get old. A few years ago, I had a chance, without them knowing about it, to get some of their great storytelling on film, including a couple of stories that are especially important today. As you probably know, Grandma and Grandpa have now been married for 75 years. Many of you won't have the chance to be with them to celebrate this momentous occasion, but you can still hear their stories, just like old times. So grab a coffee, sit back, and enjoy the romance of a bygone era from a couple who know how to finish what they start.
Like with Grandpa and I, we look back over all the years, and it's just amazing the times that God was leading that we didn't even realize it.
Well, and how did you and Grandpa meet again, Grandma?
Well, just at a mining camp where during World War II, where Grandpa was working as a tool room clerk to check the tools out for all the men, and I was working in the coffee shop. And the fountain, soda fountain.
You know, the first time we met, I was down there at, down that shop way down below.
We met somewhere else before?
Well, no.
I don't think so.
I think what he's just telling you is that he was stalking you before you met him.
He would come in. There was like the coffee shop was, everything was kind of crude because it's a
You
mining
don't remember where I lived down there in that in that little...
You were living in Tent City, I thought, didn't you?
There's a community down where I was working for Womack when I first went up there.
Yeah.
And I was working in that parks department or tool room there, right there, down below at first. And you were walking down to see me that time, or you said
Well, it must have been after I met you, or I wouldn't.
No.
I wouldn't have been walking down to see you because I didn't know
No,
you.
look it. You took a walk. I met you up on top there. I used to go up there for milkshakes and stuff.
He ate lunch in there every day.
And yeah.
And that, like the lunch counter was a long counter like this, and then the fountain counter went around out like this, but it was up high.
Mm-hmm.
They just stood at the fountain and ordered milkshakes and stuff, cokes and stuff. So he'd come into the fountain, and I'd be over in the coffee shop waiting on customers, and I'd look over and see him, and he was watching me. Every time I'd look, he'd be looking at me, and he'd look away, and I'd look away. This went on for quite a long time before finally one day, when I got off work every day, my parents lived in a little village that was a mile and a half down this long mountainside.
Mm-hmm.
The highway went down, and one afternoon I was walking down the side of the highway, going down to see my mom.
No, you were heading down the main highway, going
That's
out.
what I'm talking. That's what I said. That's the one that went down to where Mother and Dad
Hoping
lived.
I'd come and pick you up.
I didn't even have you on my mind.
Oh, yeah.
No, I didn't, because I didn't know him. But I was going down to see my parents and
That was strange. You
my
passed their
brother and
place.
sister. And here comes this pickup truck along, and he stopped and says, "Would you like a ride?" And it was him. He always says he picked me up in a pickup truck.
And how did Grandpa propose?
I don't remember. He just said, "Why don't we get married?" I guess.
Something like that.
Did you have a ring for her?
He took me out. He took me out. Then we went on to Reno on a bus and shopped at the jewelry store.
But
I do have an engagement ring in the drawer in there.
But then I took off and went down to California
To get a
to
job.
get organized, get a job, and I was coming back to get her. And where did we meet?
What, pardon?
Did we drive right up to Gab's to get you, or?
You and Dave drove up to get me.
And then we went and got
And
married
then we got
in
married in
Tonopah.
Tonopah, yeah.
Did you have a church wedding, Grandma?
During the war, normal weddings were very rare because it just, people just didn't have nothing extravagant.
We
And-
had a preacher marry us at some of my friends' house.
By accident.
By
We went,
accident.
we went to get, like, we got to Tonopah, and we were gonna go to Las Vegas, get married and go on over to LA to his mom's where he had this job. And we got to Tonopah, and we were on gasoline rationing stamps. So he and his brother Dave said, if we just get married in Tonopah, we can cut across at Bishop and we'll save a lot of gas stamps. And so we said, okay. So we went to the courthouse. This was like afternoon, and we went to the courthouse and wanted to buy our marriage license, or certificate of license, I guess. And they said, well, the county clerk has gone fishing, so you'll have to go to Goldfield and get it. And Goldfield is a different county. We drove 25 miles to Goldfield, and they scratched out one county and wrote in the other, and so we got our license and we went back to Tonopah, and they said come back, and then the judge was supposed to marry us when we came back. Of course, we weren't Christians, our parents weren't or anything, but we came back and Irv went to find the judge at the courthouse, and they said, well, he's down at such and such a club, one of the casinos, and so Irv goes in and he's in a poker game, and he wouldn't quit, and he wouldn't come out to marry us. And then we go in yes, we went in the restaurant, was where we met
Little
the
friends
Fiddlers.
of ours knew the pet preacher,
Irv had met this family there one time when he'd gone up there with some friends of his when he was a kid. So we met that family, I think, in the restaurant. Must have. And they said,
we
well,
met the brother he was dealing with.
they said, well, come on up to our house and you can get married at our house, and we'll get Reverend so and so, who was the
Episcopal.
Episcopal, which is Anglican. And by the time we finally got to get married, it was 10 o'clock at night, and they went and got this pastor out of bed, and he came over and married us.
So then you didn't have a wedding dress or anything, it was just whatever you were wearing that
I
day?
had a special dress for my wedding that I had put in my suitcase, a new nice new dress. It wasn't a wedding dress, it was just a nice dress, but
Then my sister was living in Bishop, which was about 7,500 miles away, and she'd had all set up to have us stay in the motel, and my brother Dave was staying with us, and she baked a big old cake, had kind of a celebration there.
we got there about 2 or 3 in the morning, and she was waiting up with a beautiful wedding cake, and she put big T-bone steaks on and made a big steak dinner for us.
Nice.
Like that.
And then you didn't have a honeymoon, right?
No, not really.
I guess not really.
The war was on.
Yeah.
I was getting ready to go into service.
Things were really different during the war.
Yeah.
We had food ration stamps and we had gasoline ration stamps. You couldn't buy Kleenex. And the drugstore, you could get it with a certain ration stamp, but the drugstore would only get a limited amount in. They only were allowed so much. And they gave them out to all their friends and relatives, and when you went with your stamps to get a box of Kleenex, they'd say, sorry, we're all out. So, there were lots of things you couldn't buy. We were allowed, with our food stamps, we could have 1 large can of fruit per month. I forget how many cans of vegetables, but
Hard times. We just come out of the Depression, into the war. It was tough.
but you know something, we took it all in stride. I mean, we didn't have any.
We had no choice.
No
We didn't
difficulties
know any
with it or
different.
anything. We didn't feel sorry for ourselves, because everybody was doing it. It's just life. We moved in with his mom and his younger brother and sister. After a couple of months, we went back to the mining camp, where my parents were. And he went back to work there, and we rented a little two-room cabin. All they had was a little two-room cabin, little shacky houses. That's where my parents were living too.
Waiting to be drafted.